On a cool November morning in 2021, IRS criminal investigation agents burst into a million-dollar mansion near the city of Atlanta. During the search on the second floor, in a bathroom closet, they find a Cheetos popcorn tin, inside which lies a single-board computer wrapped in a towel, storing $3.4 billion in Bitcoin. Jimmy Zhang stole all these Bitcoins almost 10 years ago. At the same time, the person he stole them from not only didn't demand them back, but even thanked him and threw in 5,000 Bitcoins on top. For several years after this, Jimmy lived the luxurious life of a millionaire until he made one small but fatal mistake, as a result of which he lost not only billions of dollars but also his freedom. Why did you steal the money? Jimmy thought you wouldn't get caught? Do you have anything to say? Jimmy was an ordinary loser nerd. Nobody was friends with him at school. Classmates beat him up and called him Beanpole. His parents, who should have been a shield and support for young Jimmy, were busy looking for work and barely making ends meet. Since childhood, Jimmy dreamed of recognition and love, and the only place where he could hide from the hostile outside world was his room with a computer, on which he learned several programming languages by the end of middle school. After entering university, Jimmy got addicted to alcohol and partying. But partying is an expensive business, and he didn't have money. Around that time, on a programmer forum, Jimmy found out about Bitcoins. Interestingly, on that forum, he chose the nickname MB300SD, which stands for Mercedes 300 SD, a car Jimmy had dreamed of all his life, thinking that when he could finally afford it, he would immediately gain popularity among girls. But the Mercedes was as far away as the moon. Bitcoin at that moment was worth pennies. It was impossible to earn good money on it. Just to give you an idea, in 2009, 5,000 Bitcoins could be sold for just $5. Jimmy became one of the first to start mining crypto right on his computer, but after a while, he gave up on it because the prospects of Bitcoin were unclear back then. But nevertheless, he managed to mine a certain amount back then. And so, when a couple of years later Bitcoin started to grow in price, Jimmy was finally able to use his knowledge and farm himself some dough for girls, for alcohol, and for whatever else. Every week, Jimmy got wasted on substances and partied hard. And this addiction of his to substances would soon, in an absolutely incredible way, make him a dollar billionaire. But for now, he didn't even suspect it. In 2011, the first ever darknet market, Silk Road, was launched, where one could buy substances and pornography for crypto. It was the first store of its kind, and Jimmy started buying goods there for personal use. The store allowed keeping Bitcoins right in a personal account, like a deposit. One day, Jimmy decides to withdraw all his Bitcoins from the deposit and accidentally presses the withdraw button twice. And incredibly, this leads to him withdrawing the maximum allowable amount twice. That is, 2 times more than he had on deposit. That is exactly how Jimmy accidentally found a bug in the system that no one had guessed existed for a whole year. Jimmy creates a new account, throws in 500 Bitcoins, and starts furiously spamming the button to withdraw 2,000 Bitcoins. Then he creates many more accounts and repeats this operation several more times. In the end, he withdrew 50,000 Bitcoins, which at that moment were worth $620. Sick. After that, the owner of the store wrote to him, and not only didn't demand them back, but even thanked him for the found bug, asked how he discovered it, and as a bonus, threw in another huge amount of Bitcoins as a sign of gratitude. After the Bitcoin rate skyrocketed from $12 to $30 and then to $824, Jimmy sank into a multi-year alcohol and drug trip. He found himself a bunch of friends who, nevertheless, just used him as a wallet to pay for entertainment, and several times he bought alcohol for absolutely every visitor in the bar. I never felt that I had to pay him back for what he spent on me. And generally, I really liked being friends with Jimmy. And although they all considered him a cool guy, it was likely only because of his tendency to throw money around. Of true friends, Jimmy had perhaps only his dog, Chad. Jimmy bought himself houses, boats, and expensive cars, and his life consisted of partying, boozing, cocaine trips, and girls. He was repeatedly caught drunk, and once in a bar, he admitted to a girl that he had $30,000 worth of cocaine at home. Only Jimmy didn't know that a cop was sitting at the table next to him. Jimmy was charged then, but they didn't put him in jail. Once he rented a private jet, gave his friends $10,000 each, which he allowed them to spend on whatever they wanted, and flew together with his friends to watch a game of his favorite baseball team. First, everyone went to the Cartier boutique, and then everyone bought themselves bags, belts, jewelry, and all sorts of other stuff. Days like this don't happen every day in life. And all this could have gone on for years if not for one ill-fated day. On March 13, 2019, a call came into the local police department of the city of Athens, Georgia. Athens is a medium-sized college town, and most often people contact the police here for some banal, petty crimes like fights or theft. But this call was special. The Athens City Police had never received calls like this. On the other end of the line was a young male voice. "Hello, I wasn't home for about 2 weeks and someone broke into my house." "And what is your name?" "My name is Jimmy Zhong, Z-H-O-N-G. The call was made by 28-year-old Jimmy Zhong. On the phone, he reported that while he wasn't home, someone broke into his dwelling and stole 150 bitcoins and $400,000 in cash from him. "I'm having a panic attack. Can you say approximately how much money you had?" "I think about $400,000. I think roughly around that." Making this call, Jimmy was taking a huge risk because the money stolen from him was just a minuscule part of what Jimmy had. And that was his dark secret that no one was supposed to know about, especially the police. Nevertheless, he wanted to know too badly who robbed him, and he was clearly scared. On the video from external cameras, you can see the moment of the break-in. And here, by the way, we see Jimmy's favorite Mercedes. I found his house on maps, and there is that very Mercedes standing there. On the recording, a thin young man breaks a window and behaves as if he had already been there before and knows exactly why he came and where it lies. By all indications, one of Jimmy's friends was definitely involved in the robbery. But the police also had another question. Why did Jimmy keep so much cash at home? And how could Jimmy afford such spending without visible sources of income? He told the police that he invested in Bitcoin and real estate, and it seemed the police had no reason not to believe Jimmy. But everything changed after a call from the IRS. This is video from a police body cam, where you can get to know Jimmy's personality better. "Hey, hi, Jimmy. Hi, remember me?" This guy is a specialist in tracking blockchain transactions. There he is sitting next to Jimmy. The IRS hired him to figure out who stole those very 50,000 bitcoins. For several years, they tried to track the thief, and only now, in a transaction from 2012, did they find tails leading to Silk Road, where a name appeared. Who do you think? Jimmy? In short, Jimmy made a seemingly small but fatal mistake. From his house, he made a transaction for just $800 on a crypto exchange that has a Know Your Client rule. In short, for a transaction on such an exchange, you need to provide your name and other personal information. And the IRS requested information about the client from this exchange, and it was Jimmy. And then the police simply decided to come to his house, accompanied by the crypto investigator under the legend of discussing the robbery of his house. That same one. But in reality, they came to dig up information about him and his connections to a crime from 10 years ago. And we see how the cute chubby guy easily and casually lets the investigators into his home. Just look at this cheerful guy. "Jimmy, if you solve this crime, beer's on me." You get the feeling that Jimmy just wants some ordinary human interaction. He showed them his house. All this time, the investigators were trying to find some clue. "Hey Jimmy, you have a rifle hanging on the wall." "Yeah, there is that." Chatting a bit about abstract topics, they decided to ask more personal questions. "Listen, Jimmy, I understand this is such a personal question, but where do you get money? We don't even know what you do." "Ah, well, right now I'm into real estate. You know, investing in real estate." Jimmy showed them a photo with a suitcase stuffed with $1 million. Yeah, I was trying to impress a girl. Well, you definitely impressed us. By the way, during the investigation, Jimmy himself stated that he never had sex, with the exception of one time when he paid for it. Well, on the lower floor, he showed them a room with a stripper pole, a bar, and servers. But the most important thing for the police was to gain access to his laptop. So I'm going to enter my password now. Please don't look. Okay. So this turns out to be something like a hot wallet. Yes. You say you have 1,800 bitcoins here. Yes. That's my hot wallet. But the cold wallet? I won't tell you where it is located. Yes, look. A cold wallet is used for long-term storage of cryptocurrency, and that's where the main part of Jimmy's stolen bitcoins lay. And a hot wallet is always connected to the internet and can be used at any moment. And right here, the investigator finally sees on the laptop screen what they came for. A crypto wallet stuffed to the gills with a huge amount of bitcoins. $60 or $70 million in bitcoins right next to us. Leaving Jimmy's house, the investigators realized at that moment that they found what they were looking for. This was the point dividing Jimmy's life into before and after. But at that moment, he didn't understand this yet. And all this is only because he called the police and reported a robbery. If he hadn't done that, he would still be enjoying his luxury life. Just imagine, you have crypto worth $3 billion. Would you call the police if someone robbed you of such a minuscule part of your fortune? Some 400,000 bucks? The next time the investigators came to Jimmy's house again, they had a harder task. They needed to gain full access to his laptop. And they came to Jimmy's house again, and again they had the legend that they still wanted to help him find the robber. Here they enter the house. And at this moment, there are numbered minutes remaining until Jimmy learns the whole truth. The investigators didn't come to help him. They came to search his house for evidence proving his involvement in the theft of $3 billion. The idea was for Jimmy to open his computer and enter the password, which he did. Then one of the investigators asked Jimmy to open the balcony door for him. Jimmy got up from the sofa, after which another investigator inserted a jiggler into the laptop. It's a device like a small flash drive that forces the cursor on the computer to move back and forth so it doesn't go into sleep mode. And so Jimmy goes out onto the balcony, and at this moment, the investigator tells him that actually, he is from the IRS Investigation Division, and they came to conduct a search of his house. At this moment, a group of operatives enters Jimmy's house and begins the search. The officers scour the whole house. On the second floor in a bathroom cabinet, they find a popcorn tin in which lies a towel, which they unfold and find inside a single-board computer on which there are bitcoins worth $3 billion. Also, under a layer of concrete, they find a safe. In this safe, they find a wallet with crypto wallet addresses, physical bitcoins that were issued back at the very beginning of crypto development, precious metals, and good old banknotes. As a result of the investigation, it turned out that Jimmy used super complicated ways to launder money. For example, he used Bitcoin mixers, which significantly complicate the tracking of transactions. After $3+ billion in Bitcoins ended up in the hands of the state, by law, all victims of the theft in 2012 could apply for a return of the stolen funds. The only thing is, these victims were drug dealers, child porn traders, and other criminals. None of them, of course, came for the bitcoins, so the US federal budget was enriched by $3 billion. And honestly, I feel sorry for Jimmy. In the early 2000s, cryptocurrency wasn't regulated at all, and the state effectively didn't give a damn about it. The state didn't consider Bitcoin a currency. And then in 2021, suddenly, when the value of one Bitcoin equals the annual salary of an American cop, the state is right there. When I was studying this story, I couldn't shake the feeling of some incredible injustice. Because let's think about what really happened. Jimmy stole money from criminals, and then the state came and, legally this time, robbed Jimmy, enriched itself, and sent him behind bars. Meanwhile, the only people who suffered from Jimmy's crime were criminals selling heroin on the darknet platform Silk Road. They sent him to prison for 1 year. The court rejected the request to leave him under house arrest so he could take care of his old dog, Chad. And yes, by the way, what about that robbery because of which Jimmy originally called? Oh yes, the professionals from the American police were never able to find that robber. That's the story. And what do you think? Write in the comments. And if you want to know how Mexico turned into a country of Coca-Cola addicts and why they conduct religious rituals together with Coca-Cola, follow the link on the screen. Bye everyone. No, not bye. Like the video, please, and subscribe. Now, bye.